Hey everyone, if The Mask didn't make it obvious, today I'm going to be ranking the Scream movies in honor of the new one. As always, spoiler alert. Starting off, my number 5 is Scream 3. Hang on. I can't read shit in this mask. Alright, that was fun, but I can't read shit in that mask, so let's just do this normally. Where were we? Oh, right, Scream 3, duh. Look, this isn't a good movie, but it's not awful. Hell, it's not even Wes Craven's worst. The acting is solid, there are a couple good kills. From a technical standpoint, it's perfectly fine. Cinematography, editing, music, all that is on point. I really only have 3 big problems with this movie. The first is the universal voice changer. It's a stupid plot device, and even now, 22 years later, that technology still doesn't exist. The second thing is the house explosion. Apparently some people consider it to be the highlight of the film, but it's not. It's one of those scenes where the writing takes a dip in quality. It's just way too convoluted because they're running back and forth and back and forth. And how the hell did Roman know that the guy would pull out a lighter? There's no way he could have possibly known that unless he's omniscient. The third thing is when Roman fakes his death. Normally, if it was just Roman faking his death, that would be fine. The problem with the scene is that Gale checks his pulse. I repeat, she checks his pulse. He's not dead, he is still alive at that point, and yet when she checks his pulse, apparently she can't feel a heartbeat. And don't come at me with like, oh, you can actually do this trick to make it seem like you don't have a heartbeat. Fuck off with that. It's a plot hole is what it is. And also, what was the point of faking his death? Like, seriously, what was the point? I don't get it. No, look, all that aside, this movie's not good, but it's at least enjoyable. And honestly, Carrie Fisher's cameo is the highlight, not the house explosion.
Hi. Excuse me, I am Gail Weathers, and I'm here researching with the police. This photo was taken at the studio. Her name is Maureen Prescott. Back then it was probably Roberts. Hey, are you...
No.
But you look just...
Like her? I've been hearing it all my life.
It's uncanny.
I was up for Princess Leia. I was this close. So who gets it? The one who sleeps with George Lucas.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring up a sore subject for you.
Sure you didn't. None of them did. So how can I help you? Or do you want me to tell you who you look like?
My score is 2.5 out of 5. Number 4 is Scream 2. Now, unlike Scream 3, this one is actually a good movie in spite of its flaws, and it has plenty. The opening scene is really cool. I like it as a whole. It has at least one big issue. How the hell did Ghostface know where the dude's head was so that he could stab through the stall wall at the exact right spot to hit him in the head? How? What, does he have X-ray vision hidden in the mask somewhere? Because mine didn't come with that. I feel cheated. Also, this movie feels a little too long. Not a whole lot, but like they easily could have trimmed off 5 or 10 minutes and it would have been fine. I mean, this is the longest Scream movie at 2 hours even. There are a handful of other dumb moments like why the hell didn't Sidney try to kill Ghostface while he was unconscious in the cop car? That shit makes no sense. Like seriously, he's unconscious. Pummel the shit out of his head until, you know, you do enough damage to kill him. The villains. I didn't even talk about Roman in Scream 3 because Roman sucks. The villains in this one are a mixed bag. Mrs. Loomis, Debbie Salt, whatever her name is, she's awesome. The whole whodunit aspect of this movie isn't nearly as good as the first one, mainly because we don't see Mickey for like a half hour before he's revealed to be one of the killers. Yeah, they didn't do a very good job of setting him up. Mrs. Loomis, on the other hand, she was fine. I mean, both their performances were on point, but as a character, Mickey didn't really feel like properly set up to be maybe the killer. All that shit aside, this is still a solid movie. The acting is solid across the board. Liev Schreiber is the standout this time, especially in the third act. The moment where he goes from super intensity to super apologetic, oh my god, Sidney, I want you to know that I would never actually hurt you, is so perfect.
She sent you to prison for a year! Personally, I think it's rather poetic.
No. No, Cotton, don't you listen to her.
Oh. Whoa. It's quite a predicament you're in, Sid.
Cotton.
I mean, she makes a good point. Let me think about this. Maybe you should too. Bet you that Diane Sawyer interview's looking real good right about now. Huh?
Consider it done.
Wow. That was intense.
From a technical standpoint, I think this one is an improvement on the first movie. Cinematography is better, the editing is slightly better, the music is just as great, costume design, set design, everything else. My score is 3.5 out of 5. Number 3 is Scream 4. Look, most rankings of this franchise, or at least most sensible rankings, have 3 at the bottom and 1 at the top, and the big question is always 2 or 4. Well, my answer is 4. This movie still has issues. The whodunit aspect is better than it was in 2 and 3, but it's still not great. As far as villains go, Charlie is fine. Not great. Not awful. Jill is fantastic. Out of all 9 Ghostfaces we've gotten, Jill is my 3rd favorite. You can probably guess who 1 and 2 are. But no, seriously, the whole scene of her going around and just injuring herself to stage a fight, to sell the whole Final Girl Survivor bit, is so freaking great. One thing about Wes Craven I find interesting is that he never really developed his own personal style. He had style, his movies have style, but he never really developed a trademark style. So each of his films has a different style. This one is a little more bright, like washed out a little bit. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's interesting. It's different. Well, to borrow a page from TV Tropes, there are several surprising moments of realism here. Like when Sydney is asked to stay in town because even though she's the least likely person to be the murderer, the stuff in her car makes her a potential suspect. And the scene where Anthony Anderson gets stabbed in the head. Yes, stabbing him this way wouldn't be able to penetrate that deep into the skull. You'd have to go like this, especially since that's most likely Jill doing it. However, I appreciate that scene, I love that scene, because it's apparently based on something that happened in real life. There was some cop who got stabbed in the head, got out of the car, and stayed on his feet for a while before he went down. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. This is the first time since the original that we actually get to see someone doing horror trivia with Ghostface over the phone in order to try to save someone's life. And I love it. It's great.
Warm-up question. Jason's weapon.
It's a machete.
There, you see, you do know the genre. Michael Myers.
Butcher knife.
Leatherface.
Chainsaw, please!
Just ask Sydney if you need some help. Freddy Krueger.
Razor hands.
Name the movie that started the slasher craze. Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Last House on the Left, or Psycho.
Psycho.
None of the above. Peeping Tom, 1960, directed by Michael Powell. First movie to ever put the audience in the killer's POV.
Wait, no. Please just ask me one more question, just one more.
All right, Kirby. Then it's time for your last chance question. Name the remake of the groundbreaking horror movie in which the villain...
Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead, The Hills Have Eyes, Amityville Horror, Last House on the Left, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, My Bloody Valentine, When a Stranger Calls, Prom Night, Black Christmas, House of Wax, The Fog, Piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
Kirby is the best character that wasn't introduced in the original. Well, at least out of the first 4 movies. I haven't decided how the characters from the new one fit in yet. But no, Hayden Panettiere is fantastic, easily the highlight of the film. The opening scene is one of the most meta things I've ever seen in my life. I agree with James from Dead Meat on this. The only way that scene could have been more meta is if at the very end, Wes Craven himself pulled off the mask, flipped us the bird, and thanked us for our money. Much like Scream 3, I don't like that none of the main characters die. It's all new characters. I do think that Neve Campbell gives her best performance as Sidney Prescott in this movie. My score is 4 out of 5. Number 2 is Scream 5, or Scream 2022, or whatever you want to call it. This is the only movie that did the same title as the original gimmick that I actually like, because it's doing it to poke fun at the other movies that do it, like Halloween 2018. Out of all the Scream sequels, this one comes the closest to recreating the subversiveness of the original. It's also the only sequel where the whodunit aspect doesn't feel at least a little undercooked. Right from the opening scene, this movie plays with and subverts your expectations like none of the other sequels were able to do. Not only does the victim from the opening scene's attack survive, she's one of the survivors at the end. As can be expected, there are some unanswered questions and potential gaps in logic, like the fact that the writers clearly can't do math because Tara and Sam's ages do not line up with the whole 25 years later thing. That aside, this is a great fucking movie. I would like to give kudos to the marketing department for not spoiling the fact that Billy fucking Loomis is in this movie. Now, granted, he's the ghost of a digitally de-aged Skeet Ulrich, but honestly, it's some of the best de-aging I've ever seen. And I've seen some pretty great stuff. Sam's arc in this movie is, so good. Because she has to choose whether or not to embrace this darkness that she thinks she has inside of her, and she does. And I cannot wait to see how this impacts her mental health in the sequel, because holy shit, she went apeshit on the guy. As far as acting goes, the standout here is Jenny Ortega as Tara. She is... Earlier, I mentioned how Kirby might be the best new character introduced since the original. Well, Tara is her competition. The returning cast is all great. I don't think there's any bad acting in this movie. Even the small part actors are solid.
There's certain rules to surviving a stab movie. Believe me, I know. Rule number 1, never trust the love interest. They seem sweet, caring, supportive, and then welcome to Act 3 where they're trying to rip your head off. Rule number 2, the killer's motive is always connected to something in the past. And rule number 3, and this is the most important rule, the first victim always has a friend group that the killer is a part of. And look for the killer there. If you can find out why they're doing this, you can figure out who's next.
I love that after 2 movies in a row of no OG characters dying, we finally get one. And, Dewey goes out in a very fitting manner. And we finally get to see someone dual-wielding for once, so that was cool. The killers in this movie aren't the best, but they're good. They're definitely good. The kills in this movie are some of the best in the franchise. I would argue that if you go by average quality of kills, this movie has the best average quality of kills in the whole franchise. Oh, and one more thing. Thank you, Radio Silence, for trashing toxic fandom. The problem is that a lot of people that commentary is aimed at aren't going to realize it's aimed at them because their heads are that far up their own asses. My score is 4.5 out of 5. Finally, my number 1 is the original Scream. I love A Nightmare on Elm Street, but this is Wes Craven's masterpiece. This movie turned the horror genre on its head. And it also gave us one of the most underrated spoof movies of all time, so thanks for that. This is the best whodunit of the franchise. It has the best killers. With the killers in the sequels, even with the ones I love, their behavior still changes, at least a little bit, once they're revealed to be the killer. This is the only one where the killer's behavior doesn't really change that much. They still just act like their normal selves, only now we find out they've been murdering people.
Corn syrup. Same stuff they use for pig's blood in Carrie.
Help me, please.
Surprise, Sydney.
Oh, no. Whoa.
What's the matter, Sydney? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Why are you doing this?
It's all part of the game, Sydney.
It's called Guess How I'm Gonna Die!
Fuck you!
No.
We already played that game, remember? You lost. It's a fun game, Sydney. See, we ask you a question, and if you get it wrong, booga! You die. If you get it right, you die.
You're crazy, both of you.
Actually, we prefer the term psychotic.
We'll never get away with this.
Oh, no? Tell that to Cotton Weary.
This is how you do a whodunit. It's like Randy said, unlike prom night, everybody's a suspect. Is it Gale? Is it Dewey? Is it Tatum? No, it's Sue and Billy, but you get the idea. I love that because of how much this movie goes against the norm, points and laughs at cliches, when they play one straight, we think nothing of it. Early on in the movie, when Billy drops his phone, that should be an immediate red flag for the audience to be like, he's the killer, he's the killer. And he is the killer. But because this movie goes out of its way to subvert and generally point and laugh at horror movie cliches, we're thinking, oh no, that's way too obvious. There's no way in hell it's him. But then it is. My one and only problem with this movie is that when Billy says it's all one big movie, he doesn't look at the camera and wink. It's a fantastic scene, but that one change would have made it absolutely perfect. My score is 5 out of 5. Hey everyone, what's your ranking? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe and all that. If you don't like the video, subscribe anyway so you'll be notified when I upload a new one and you can tell me how bad that one is too. And hey, who knows, maybe you'll actually have some good feedback for me. That's all for now. Stay safe in these crazy times.